So let's get into it. It is March 22nd. This is That Mortgage Show. We're coming off St. Patty's Day weekend. Leprechauns, wannabe leprechauns of the world, are flushing green beer from their systems all week. We had a Fed rate decision on Wednesday.
Yeah, we did.
Yep, and the National Association of Realtors settled a big lawsuit. It's been everywhere in the news. Realtors everywhere have been talking about it, probably on your social media feeds. We'll try and stay in our lane as much as we can on that, but
hot topic of conversation in the biz.
Yep, it's going to affect the business for sure, so we have to touch on it. But Al, you got anything for the intro before we jump into what's your rate?
Not really.
Great.
Yeah, let's just keep on rolling.
Let's keep rolling.
Man, you're clipping my wings. But I understand it on this show. Keep going.
First segment, Al, is what?
What's your rate?
I didn't mean to clip your wings, but it sounded like you needed a life preserver.
Yeah, maybe. Well played. Keep it
moving.
moving.
What's your rate? So this week's What's Your Rate is all about the Fed rate decision on Wednesday. I mean, it's the big time, right? They have 8. I think they have eight. They have 8 of these a year, and we're waiting to see when the Fed rate decision meeting that they come out and say we're cutting rates. Well, drum roll, please. The rate decision this week was just to not do anything. All right. I don't know. What do you think of that?
That's it?
Yep.
That's it? All this build up? They get us all excited. And guess what? We're meeting. We're going to make a decision. What's the decision going to be? We have unanimously decided we're not going to do anything. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was unanimous. The vote was unanimous to leave rates unchanged. And all jokes aside, I think leaving them unchanged is probably better than raising them because there's been some
silver lining.
Yep, there's been some the last 2 weeks as far as jobs reports, inflation reports, CPI. They all kind of are pointing to unfavorable signs of inflation cooling. It's not going the way that they wanted. The conspiracy theorist in me wants to say that they're cooking the numbers and they're pushing it. They're kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
These reports come out and they're like, oh, everything. Look, the economy's great. And then like a week or two later, on the back page, they report a redaction and they report the actual numbers. Like, oh, we missed 100,000 unemployment claims. That is really happening. That does happen.
That's absolutely happening. The job numbers that they post out at first, that goes on the front page. Bam! Unemployment's down. And then once they do the revisions, it's like you never, ever hear about it unless you're somebody like you that really digs into that minutia, that fine stuff. You know what I mean? Which is pretty crazy.
Now, it just could very well be the natural way that these reports work. And I've only been paying attention to it for, a year or so since it became pertinent because of these rates. So it could very well just be like common practice. But to me, it seems a little weird.
Yeah.
So just get it right.
Just get it right the first time. I don't know. Take an extra day. Don't tell us anything. Just take an extra day. Make sure everything's buttoned up, right? That we're giving good numbers. Can you imagine in our business if we were like, your rate's going to be 5%? And then it was like in the disclosures, it's like, it's actually going to be 7.5.
Right.
We didn't button it up. You got to button up.
Well, we revised your qualifications. And
we had to take another peek.
So no rate movement this week. No rate movement this meeting. What does it mean for the future? Well, they tell us via their dot plot, right? The grand old dot plots, Al.
Dot plot.
Yeah.
Dot plot guy. You love a good dot plot.
I mean, can I read them? Not so much. But do I like saying dot plot? Yes, of course.
Loves it. Guy loves it. Nickname in high school was dot plot. Yo, dot plot.
So the dot plot revealed that all Fed officials still plan on 75 basis points of rate cuts this year. So that's 0.75%.
Yeah.
Now there's still hope,
Yeah, that's just to be clear. That's not saying that mortgage interest rates are going to cut that much. That's just what the Fed rate's going to get cut by, and obviously that's going to impact what mortgage rates do. But that's not a direct correlation that they cut, 75 basis points. It's not a direct correlation to 75 basis points for mortgage lending purposes, but it will have an impact. So
right, and of course that those cuts, they aren't even directly related to mortgage rates. They're cutting their federal funds rates, which there's a trickle down effect from what they do to the banks and then how the banks lend to consumers.
Consumer rates, yeah. So
the consumer.
Well, it's all about the consumer.
So I think that we had to jump on this week because we want to continue doing our show. We want to be consistent. And you know how it is when you let it go 1 week, 2 weeks, you start falling behind, and then your brain says, "Oh, we don't have to follow through," and we don't want our brains to think that.
No. I want my brain to trust me. I want my brain to believe in me, to know that I'm the guy that when I don't feel like doing something, I'm going to do it anyway. You got to power through. It's like when you get in a routine working out, right, or eating healthy. One day you fall off the wagon, you're fine. But if you look back and you're like, well, I already fell off the wagon, I might as well just keep on eating whatever the hell I want. Well, then it's done. You could so easily correct the path and get back on the wagon.
Yeah.
So, we had to get back in there. Get in the ring.
You're exactly right. You want your brain to trust you. It's as simple as that. Because if you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time and you're never on time, your brain is like, oh, this is I'm a guy that just says whatever the hell he wants and doesn't follow up on it.
Yeah. Which is not anybody in this chat. Nobody in this chat is habitually late. I'll tell you that much.
I think that over the last 5-6 years, you've changed that. Now it sucks because oftentimes we pigeonhole ourselves from like I was always Adam's gonna go nuts, because like a couple times when we were in middle school and high school, like sometimes I had a hot temper, so I'm that guy now, even though I haven't had a temper for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, off track, off topic. We've got 5 minutes. Let's spend the last 5 minutes talking about this NAR thing. So Al, do you know much about it? Have you been following along?
I know a little bit about it. I think I know enough to be dangerous, enough to have conversations. I've had conversations with realtors about it. And essentially what it means is I think there was always the assumption, right, that the seller pays for the buyer's agent. And now that's not necessarily the case. So either, that still could be the case. Sellers still could pay for the buyer's agent. But now you're going to have,
Now it's going to be less of a common practice. So cooperative commission is I think what people are like the phrase that is being thrown around there, cooperative commissions. And the thing that stinks is, and the thing that the governing bodies often get wrong is like the more red tape, the less it helps people.
Right.
So this rule's coming along where they're seemingly going to change the status quo. Status quo being, like you said, seller pays buyer and seller commissions out of their net proceeds.
Yeah.
We have an affordability issue as it is today.
Big time.
If the buyer is now going to be responsible for 2.5% to 3%, their buyer's agent commission, where's that money coming from? I mean, like, so they're going to have to worry about 5% down, 3.5% down, plus closing costs, plus paying their agent. It's just going to take like 75, 80, I don't even know, but a lot of people are going to be unable to do it.
Right.
So what's the strategy going to be,
Yeah, no, it's a great question. If they're going to raise, the sales price of the home to cover that and the seller would still pay for it, right? Or are they just going to, is the buyer going to have to pay for it? They're going to roll out, new programs like new down payment assistance type programs that aren't necessarily DPAs, but are programs directed at helping you pay for an agent, right? Helping you get set up with an agent.
But it's just more layers of a already complex process. It's just like that would they need to figure it out because
Well, not to mention, first-time home buyers, it's an intimidating thing, right? Now, we've done this a lot of times, and we can say, hey, it's not bad at all if you work with the right people, right, that know what they're doing. They'll get you through the process. There might be a couple bumps along the way that you can't necessarily avoid, regardless of who you work with. But you work with somebody that's good. They're going to keep the ship sailing in the right direction. They're going to get it home, right? But now you add a lot more uncertainty, right, into people's minds, especially people out there that are looking to buy their first home. And it's just unnecessary, especially with what you talked about with the affordability issue. That's only going to get worse as the values keep climbing higher and higher and higher.
And if the values are climbing higher, and then they say if you buy it for more, we'll cover the cost, that inflates the price even more.
Exactly.
So it's going to be tough. And then the last thing to wrap up, I hate when this kind of thing happens. I hate when it takes center stage, because it's going to take some time for everybody to figure it out, and that's fine. Yeah. But when it takes center stage, a lot of people, unfortunately, are going to be like looking for something for free because of it. Like, right. Oh, you're not allowed to charge me anymore. They're going to miscomprehend the headlines. Yeah. The headlines are going to be inflammatory, and then you're going to have a bunch of buyers running around trying to get something for free, which is going to bring, less than perfect agents to the forefront, because they're going to work for lower commissions, and there's no such thing as a free lunch. If an agent comes around, I'm going to waive my fee. It's like, I don't know. I wouldn't go get a tattoo from some guy because it's $1,000 less than some other tattoo artist. Like, right. You wouldn't do that. And
it's funny too. I've had a conversation with somebody who is outside the business, right, that's looking to buy a home, and I've had a conversation with a realtor, right, that does a lot on the purchase side. And the conversation is from the person who, is out there looking to buy a home. Now, he's working with a realtor, but he was like, if this goes through, who cares? So what? I'm not going to pay I'm not going to pay an agent to work with me. I'd rather just show up in an open house, say this is the house that I like, and do it myself. Right. And then you have the agent who I was talking to had no idea I had this conversation with somebody else. And the agent was like, and you're going to have people out there thinking that they could just work without an agent and go and buy a house, and they're going to get screwed over. Right. They're going to, they have no idea everything that's involved in this process, everything that we do. Right. And it's not just, going and showing houses, like the amount, the paperwork and the negotiations, right? If there are any issues that arise, you're not going to have any representation. You represent yourself, and it's going to screw people. People are going to get.
It's going to screw people. They're going to be, and they're not going to have an advocate in their corner when it comes to inspections or, competing with others. And if there's 10 offers and somebody has a buyer's agent, the seller's agent is probably going to say, I don't want to speak for them, but they're probably going to say, hey, when someone has an agent, the probability of it getting to closing is much greater than when someone is representing themselves.
Right.
So
absolutely.
So they're gonna. If a seller can choose between somebody who has representation and is going to help them get there versus someone who is going to represent themselves and be, they're going to go with the person that has the buyer's agent. We'll see how it plays out. Hopefully they work it out and find and hopefully they get the realtors involved in the decision-making process as to how the process is going to look, because those are the folks that are dealing with it in the trenches. They know. It's like the same on our side when these big, massive, sweeping rule changes come out, and the people that are making the rules haven't done a loan in 20 years, and it's like you don't know what it's like to be inside these loans. So my alarm's going off for my call. I think that was a great 15-minute show.
Love it. Cranked it out. Informative. Good stuff. That's number 24 on March 22nd, right? Hope you got something out of it. Hope you learned a little something. Tune in next week. We'll have a lot more.
All right, Al. Good work, man. Have a great day.
You too, buddy.
All right. Later.